Jen.
I am
How are you?
doing good. It's the new year.
Man, 2025. How's
It's
it gonna
cold.
go? Who
It's
knows?
cold as shit out though.
Somebody yesterday was like, it's like a farmer's almanac thing that it's like the wait, somebody was like, yeah, the farmer's almanac. Like, what is farmer's almanac?
Who
It's
did
like,
you talk to? This is clearly like this shows the difference in like where we live because Emily lives in like near farms and I live in the city. The fact that she's talking to anyone that mentions the farmer's
okay.
almanac,
What do you
it
think?
says a
But
lot.
like, imagine if I actually lived in a farm country, like with the suburbs to you. It's like,
I feel like you do. I know I'm so
no,
wrong.
but also to be fair, we were like sledding the other day. We're at like a girlfriend's house of Millie's. And it was next to a bunch of cows who then were able to get out and come over to the sledding.
And sled with the kids.
They didn't, but I feel like they could have. But okay, wait. So apparently it's like a opposite, it's like an El Nino, whatever. It's some year, like
El
last
Nino?
year. Yeah, like a Nino and Nino. I'm not entirely sure. But it's like the opposite of last year, right? Like last year was like very dry and warm, and this year
Oh,
is gonna be very wet and cold. So
oof.
bad news for you. We're not out of it.
You know how like everyone says if you have nothing to talk about, you like end up talking about the weather. Like I just have to say I can't help but talk about the weather because it's
Listen, I'm going to tell you something
affecting me
about
so
yourself.
much. How affected I am
Jen
by weather.
talks about how cold she is 23 hours out of the
I
day.
I know it. And I know it. I'm self-aware enough to know, but I can't help it.
I go into such a problem solving mode. I'm like, do you have a heated blanket? Do you have a heat space voice warmer? Have you checked
I
your
just
thing?
need
Because I'm
I
like,
just
how
need
are you this cold inside all the
so
time?
cool. I just need other people to also
Is it
say,
because you
yeah,
live in an
it's so
old
cold.
house?
Maybe, yeah,
Like,
yes.
yeah, like old houses in general are just
And
more
it's on a
drafty.
corner. It's on a corner too. You
What is that?
if you're in
What does that
between
do?
if you're in between other houses, it's like you're all like
Mm.
warming each other. That was anyway, I don't know. I made that up. It sounds right though.
Today's episode is about self and trust, but in this moment, I don't trust you exactly with that theory, but I do hear exactly where you're going from.
I
But
trust
before
myself and that's what matters.
it's about the episode. But before we get started, we have a question from listener Sarah. Are you a hit snooze multiple times before getting up person or a one and done alarm person?
Mm. Mine's a like depends on the day. I know that's lame, but mine's
What time is your
really
alarm set for?
it depends on the day.
Typically, what time is your alarm set
Probably
for?
8 a.m. Well, it depends.
Mm,
If I'm gonna go to the gym and I went to bed at a decent time, then it's 7. It's between 7 and like 8:30.
wow.
Yeah. How about you? Are you like thinking about how lovely that would be?
I don't even think I could sleep in until 8 o'clock if I tried.
Wow.
I don't even think my body would be capable of it. Because I'm like, well, which am I? So when my husband travels and I have to get Millie up by myself, I am always end up being a hit snooze multiple times. That was like this morning. My husband's traveling this week. And because I set my alarm for like 6:05 and then 6:10 and then 6:15, but like really I just naturally wake up at 6:40. So I don't typically have to snooze an alarm because I'm awake anyway.
Your
This
natural alarm is 6:40.
6:40 every morning. I
I
wake
actually
up
love that.
immediately.
I just go to bed much later than you.
Well, what time do you go to bed?
Probably like 12.
Yeah, big
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah, huge
What time
difference.
do I
So
go to bed?
like 8 a.m. 8 p.m. What time do you go to bed? 8 p.m.
5:15.
5:15. Just getting a lot of
No, I
sleep.
go to bed, but I am always asleep by 10. Like it is 9:45 and I look at the clock. I'm like, "Oh my good lord."
You also, I know you take melatonin, but you're such a good
I,
sleeper.
I don't take melatonin anymore.
I mean,
I'm off the tones.
you're off the tones. You're off the juice. Um, I identify you as a really good sleeper. Am
Can
I
I
wrong?
tell you? You want to know what? It's because I don't take any Adderall anymore.
Wow. Yeah, that makes sense. That
Uh,
tracks.
yes, because that was like a big part. I haven't taken Adderall through everything with fertility. Adderall's like not
Yeah,
good. So now I've like totally been off Adderall for 7 years,
a
maybe.
long time. Wow.
Yeah.
Not
So
not me.
let's talk. You're still on the juice.
I'm on that juice.
Okay. Today's episode, self-trust, boundaries with self. We wanted to talk about usually January, you do some type of like year goal or resolutions episode, right? And like we were sort of like talking about what we wanted to do because we didn't really want to talk about resolutions. They always go to bullshit. But we wanted to talk about something about like how do you hold yourself accountable? How do you boundary yourself? How do you self-trust? And that's how this episode came to be.
Yeah. How do you feel like you are holding yourself accountable?
So I think for so much of our life, we are taught to hold ourselves accountable through shame,
Mm. Mm.
right? In a really big way. So, what's wrong with you if you don't do this? Or, oh, God, you're stupid or you're gross or any of that negative self talk. And for me, I do a lot of like, how could this benefit you? What feels good to you? And so mine comes from a lot of like, my trust with self comes from being friends with myself
Mm.
and caring about myself without any type of not negative connotation associated with it.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, I think deciphering between what is a healthy way to hold yourself accountable in a way that doesn't put yourself down in
Yeah.
some way. Because I think as a society, in a lot of ways, we're taught to do that, just as you said, right? We're taught to think that the only way that I'm going to be able to do this is if I beat myself up for
Yeah.
it,
I mean,
right?
I think for a lot of us generationally, it's so interesting now, right? Like being a parent and you hear all these other parents in conversations, you sit there and you talk about parenting styles and gentle parenting and all this shit. And I'm like, our parents definitely didn't fucking do this. They had like Dr. Spock and that was like it. And there wasn't a billion books and there sure shit wasn't Instagram accounts. Um, so I think a lot of parenting was shame-based discipline, punishment parenting, because that is the way that they knew. Nobody was trying to be like evil and cruel for the most part. Um, it happened. Um, but I think that when you learn it from such a young age, you think, well, that's motivation.
Yeah.
That's how we do it. Like there's a difference between, you can do this to take care of yourself, to love yourself, or you should do this, or else you're a fucking idiot if you don't.
Yeah. I also think there's another piece of that of like, you should do this because this is what you're supposed to be doing. Like that kind of messaging.
Mm-hmm.
um you're supposed to be doing this, which gives zero space for like nuance or like who you are as an individual or like what works for you or choices or autonomy that you have over your life. It's just you should do this because this is what you should be doing,
Yeah. This
right?
happened
Period.
the other day. We had a big snowstorm. But there was snow. Nothing like the blizzard in 96, but there was much
Or
snow the other day.
93 and 96.
No, it's great years. Great years for the snow.
Great years for the
Um
farmer's almanac too. Keep going. I'm sorry.
so we took our daughter sledding. Something you should know about my kid is when you like see on like these reels of these kids that are just like crazy, right? They're just like going down the stairs and box. That's not my kid. My kid is cautious. My kid's like, I don't possibly want to get hurt. I'm going to think this shit through. Um, and so when you want to take her to do stuff like sledding, she's pretty anxious about it, right? Like she's pretty freaked out. And it immediately goes into crying and tears. And when you're out with a bunch of people and you're like, why don't you kid you have fun? You're like, come on, just fucking do it. I know you're gonna like this, right? Like, I know you're gonna do this. And it's really hard as a parent to like keep your cool of like, you don't have to do it this way. Right. Like, and or because you're trying to teach your kid, like, you can trust yourself, you're not gonna get hurt. You can trust us in this moment. We wouldn't let you go down something that's fucking dangerous. We're not gonna let you go into traffic, right? Like, but when you're a kid or when you're a cautious person or you're a scared person, you haven't developed trust in self yet, or
Mm.
also trust in people around you. And my daughter doesn't fully trust us in times like this. And it's sometimes I feel a reactivity like as a mom. And then instead of being like, oh, like you don't have to do it this way, we got into this thing the other day, and then I went up to her and I was like, I am really, I sucked. I was like, Millie, I'm like so sorry. I got upset. If you do not ever want to sled again, a second in your life, you never have to sled again. A second in your life. And then it's hard because then 5 hours later, she wouldn't get off the goddamn hill.
Right. But you're teaching her how to trust
Mhm.
herself, right? She's like testing the world instead of, and I was thinking while you're telling this story, like these must be Aaron's genes. Like they have to be Aaron's genes because I can't imagine that's what you were like as a kid.
I don't think I even thought like
Exactly. Exactly. Like she's like thinking
Aaron's
about
cautious.
it. She's right.
Yeah.
So, what's so interesting is like as you're talking about this, like you're seeing a child who like in that space has a very different way of approaching the world than
Hmm.
you do too.
Yeah.
And you're saying like just trust yourself, just and so it just must be, so wonderful and like such a balance to have you as someone who's just like you do this and if something happens, you figure it out and you kind of like go for it, right? And she's cautious, but she's like learning kind of that other part through you, which I
Yeah.
think is so nice.
Yeah. But then we got so many questions around this, right? How do you trust yourself? How do you trust yourself enough to make decisions? Why do I always ask to validate decisions? But like it comes from an early fucking age.
Yeah.
Often we want to have some reason of like, oh, my parents did this. Sometimes we're just born more cautious humans, man.
Hmm.
And we have to ongoing develop that this idea, I'm just not going to feel it. Good luck.
It also makes me think about like people who didn't have parental guidance,
Mm,
right? Who like someone wasn't telling you what to do, that you, maybe you approach the world in a more cautious way because you've had to figure it out
mm-hmm,
yourself,
mm-hmm.
um, making it hard to trust other people around you, right? Where you're like, well, I have to figure out how to rely on myself and like, what does that look like?
Yeah.
But let's get into questions. We have
Okay.
so many of them. Okay, number one. How do you forgive yourself for regretful decisions you made in the past?
Mm.
Mm.
I
My
think,
first,
yeah, yeah.
go.
No.
You go.
Well, I was gonna say it goes back to what I talked about earlier about like you could enter it with shame or you could enter it
Mhm.
like who was I then? Why did I make that decision? Right. So when I think about a time in the past where I was like highly reactive or something, initially I think about that memory and remember that trend. I love that trend.
Me
That
too. I think about it all the
what was
time.
that trend? It was that little TikTok trend where
I
you're like
think about it
shake your yeah.
all
Like
the time. Like anytime you like something pops into your head
yeah,
that you're
that's
like,
hilarious.
oof.
You're like, oh God, horrible. So you have this intrusive thought of like something from the past. You have like a lot of shame around it. The question is, what if I was to meet it with curiosity? Why did I do it at the time? Who was I trying to be? I was like one of those kids that would just lie for some reason. You know what I mean? Like I was like a lying kid growing up.
Yeah.
I'd be like, my uncle's a celebrity. No, that's not true. Like I was just like one of those kids that lied. And I did it because I had drastically low self-esteem and I
Uh,
wanted people to like me. And I thought that
uh,
having some type of status would do that. So I can sit there and be embarrassed or be like, man, that's really sad that I needed to lie as a kid to feel acceptance. Right. So, how do I meet myself with a curiosity? It's much easier to forgive myself when I humanize myself.
mm.
Why might a human act this way? Me or anyone else? What could it have done for me? And what could I do now?
And you know what I think happens, if we don't greet that part of ourselves with curiosity and like really humanizing that part, that sometimes we go into cutting that part of ourselves off, like, oh, that wasn't me, right? Like, and just completely disassociating from it. But, in order to kind of grow and be like a fully integrated human, we have to understand like that was also a part of us too, right? Like there was a reason why you were lying, right? You wanted connection, you wanted attention, whatever it was, like you needed something. I was thinking about, I used to lie too. I think maybe kids just lie, but I would
I,
lie to like
yes.
get out of things, right?
Like
Like
what?
I like one time I think I was in preschool and I peed my pants. I remember this so vividly. It's so funny because I was so young. And they were like, "Jen, did you pee your pants?" And I was like,
Oh, not
"No."
me.
I was like, "No." Ridiculous. I'm only 4 years old. No, stupid. I was like, "Oh, I spilled apple juice on myself like I made that up
Well, you're embarrassed.
because I was embarrassed."
Yeah.
Right. So like I could say, wow, I was such a, like a stupid kid. Why didn't I just tell them?
Yeah.
Right? Like, or why did I pee my pants at 4 years? Or I could say, like, yeah, that makes sense. I was embarrassed, right? Like I had an accident. Kids have accidents,
Hmm.
right? And like, of course I lied. I was trying to protect myself. So just as we're saying, if you look back at those experiences, look at the way in which you're processing them, how you talk to yourself about those experiences, and then what do you do with them, right? Are you integrating them? Are you understanding that at the time you are a human being that makes mistakes? And I know this is going to be tough to hear, but like you're going to continue to make mistakes. Maybe it's not the same mistake, right? We hope to learn from things
Hmm.
that we don't want to do again, but you're going to make other mistakes and you're going to keep having that like, ugh, feeling, you know?
I don't know
Ugh.
how to call it,
So,
the head
so
reaction.
I'm not sure. We have to watch the YouTube to see what our faces look like. But I think it's also a skill, right? It's a skill to be able to say, like, I was human and what can I learn from that? Like, how do I want to grow from that? And how do I not be so hard on myself for making a decision or doing something that didn't work for me?
The next person asks in how to trust yourself that you're making the right decisions, removing self-doubt. So what if you're not making the right decision?
Right.
I mean, it's a good question to ask, right? Like, what if you're making a decision and you genuinely don't fucking know if it's right? And let's say you're applying to jobs and you're like, wow, one, the grass is always greener. You're like, ah, oh, it sounds really great. And then you get there and you're like, this was a mistake.
Right.
This maybe wasn't the best decision that I've ever made. So what's going to happen? Can you go back to the other job? Can you say, you want to know what? This did not work out. I guess I have to keep looking for my next spot, right? Like, so like when this idea of removing self-doubt, I don't know if you can ever fully remove it. The question is, are you going to beat yourself the fuck up if it happens?
And I think that like questioning the decision is a way, sometimes is a way to like avoid actually moving forward with it, of the fear of, you know, making a decision that didn't work for you, right? Like
Yeah.
finding that job that didn't work. And I think where the self trust comes in is knowing that if you make a decision that isn't the right decision, that you'll be able to figure it out. And I
Yeah.
think that's, as opposed to looking at like, how do I get rid of self doubt? Like, it's okay. You're going to have doubt, right? You can't predict the future. You
Yeah.
can only gather all the information, try to figure out if this is going to work for you, and trust that even if you gathered all the information and you get there and it doesn't work for you, to trust and know within yourself that you're going to be able to figure it out, whatever
Yeah.
it is, even if it's tough, even if you have to figure shit out again and it throws you for and it destabilizes you.
Yeah.
Trusting in yourself means knowing that whatever comes your way, you're going to be able to figure it out.
Well, I think I felt this a lot when it came to fertility, just starting fertility treatment
Mm,
again, right? Which was like, in some ways, my life is really easy right now, right? Your kid is almost 6 years old. Like,
yeah.
they got their own friends. They got a fucking schedule. They're at school. They got shit going on. Like, they don't need you. You're not
More
up during the night.
independent.
Yes,
Yeah.
right. Like, you have all this stuff, and so it was a huge fear about like, well, am I ruining my life? One, to go through this pain of this. We don't know what the outcome's going to be. And also, I have to go back to the beginning. Oh God, the beginning sucks in my opinion. Um, and it's so scary. I don't think at any point I stop having self-doubt, but you can want something, know it's the right decision, no matter what the outcome is, and have doubt around it.
Hmm. I think that's such a good point that we tend to couple self-doubt with like that
Wrong.
must mean I'm making the wrong decision. And I think self-doubt just comes from not being able to predict the future.
Mm-hmm. So somebody
Right?
said, how do you trust yourself enough to make the right decisions about things? You What does right mean? We've
Right.
talked about this before, right? Um, we can have the right decision and the smart decision. Sometimes the smart decision is not the right decision for us, right? Say we get a job offer, it's a lot more money, but more travel, more work, less work-life balance, or more travel, or you don't actually know if the company would be someone you want to work for. Sometimes the smart decision, which we would think is like maybe the more financially prominent decision, isn't the right decision for us. How do we define what right decision means?
Mm. All right, ready?
Yeah.
I always ask others to validate my decisions. Why is that? And how do I make it stop? We can really dig into this one. Well,
Why
I'll
do
tell you
you think it is?
what. Well, yes, that's that. My first thing was how often are you looking for outside validation in
Mhm.
general, whether it's your decisions, whether it's for anything in your life? And I'm also wondering, what is it that you think other people know about your life that you don't know about your life? And what does it do to make other people the experts on your life, the life that you're living for yourself? How does that affect you? I think one of the reasons why we do that is because if we make a decision that doesn't work out or is the wrong decision for us, then we don't have to put the blame on ourselves. We can be like, well, I checked with Susie and Sally and, George and Timmy. And all four of those fake people said that it was the right decision. And so if this doesn't work out, like, yeah, everyone told me to, and it just didn't work out right. So then we don't have to take it on as it's a decision that
Yeah.
I made for myself. So I wonder, like, what's the fear around if you make this choice without any outside validation and it doesn't end up being the right thing for you? What then would you do to yourself? Would you beat yourself up? Would you be hard on yourself? Like, what's the fear around that?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it is. I don't know. I think there was something really scary
Yeah.
about having to say something was wrong or failed,
Yeah.
right? Like, so what would it be like if you were okay with failure? Or
Mm.
what would it be like if you're okay with making a mistake or the wrong decision? And what would happen if you did?
I also wonder, like, is this person going to person after person to validate a decision? Like, do you want to go in one way, right? And you're looking for people to say that specific thing. And so you're going from person to person to make sure that they validate the decision that you want. It's almost like when someone's like, "Do you want to go to this restaurant or do you want to go to this restaurant?" And you're like, I don't know, like I don't care. And then someone's like, okay, let's go to this one. It's the one you didn't want. And
You're
you're
like,
like, no, actually, I
no.
want to go to the other one.
Wait, I love that there's like another trend online where someone like you pick your partner up and you're like, guess where I'm taking you to dinner? It's somewhere you really wanted to go. And they just wait for the other person. They're like, yes, exactly.
Oh my
Like
God, I have,
if Aaron did
yes,
that, I'd be like,
that.
bonefish.
I love bonefish.
Listen, same.
I can't believe we've never talked about this before. We should go to
We should go to
Bonefish.
bonefish. You think they'd let us do a live episode?
Maybe. Do they have a recording studio? Oh, you want to do a live episode? Sorry, I missed
No,
that.
we'll just
As
do
soon
it
as you were live, I
eating
was
bang
just,
bang shrimp.
is the bag bag shrimp good?
Yo, fuck off. What do you get there if you're not getting bang bang? What do
I don't know.
you
I just
mean?
I feel like they have a big menu, like a lot of options. Feels like the Cheesecake Factory to me. That-
Listen, I'm gonna be honest. I actually don't think you've ever been to Bonefish. I believe
Am I
nothing of
thinking
what you're
about something?
saying.
Am I thinking about
Their
something
menu
else?
is not big. It is not at all like the Cheesecake
Am I
Factory.
thinking
And
about
if you've
something
never
else?
had the bang bang shrimp, you've never been to Bonefish. I don't believe anything you're saying right now. Is this one of
This,
those things where you lie to get like you more?
yes. Yeah. No, it's not like me where it's not get into trouble.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Bonefish. Yeah, of course. I've been there. Please don't yell at me. I swear a bit. Bonefish Grill.
Yes.
It says grill at the end, right? I swear I've been there. Don't yell at me. Take the shame away. Okay, maybe I haven't. I don't fucking know. I don't remember bag bag shrimp everywhere I go. I'll take you to
It would be.
Bonefish. I'll take you to Bonefish, and I'll be like, oh my God, I've never been here.
Yo, Bonefish is dope though.
Wow, you would say Bonefish. I would say, I don't know. What do you want?
I would say if Aaron picked me up and he was like, where, guess where I'm taking you? It's somewhere you've really wanted to go. I'd be like, if Bill got in the car and he was like, guess where I'm taking you? Somewhere you really want to go, what would you say?
Loco Pez.
Okay, there you go. And then you know what you really want to eat.
Love those tacos.
Okay. Somebody said, does radical acceptance play a role in self-trust? I think radical acceptance is a wonderful skill to develop self-trust.
Mm.
Having the ability through creative solutions, the critical thinking of developing radical acceptance allows self-trust to grow through mastery.
Mm. and your ability to say like whatever happens, once again, I don't have control over it, right? And I think sometimes we lose trust or we like push away decisions as a way to not move forward with them, to not make a decision that doesn't work, to protect ourselves from something bad happening, right? Radical acceptance is our ability to accept that like shit's going to happen. And when shit happens, we're going to be able to deal with it.
Um, I want to make sure we talk a little bit more about setting boundaries with ourselves because we didn't get to talk about that as much. And as we get hit, I'm watching our time. Somebody said, "What is the process for setting boundaries with yourself and sticking to them?" All right. So we said we we're going to talk about resolutions, but I have a resolution for this year.
Here.
Besides what I always say,
Lottery
which
tickets.
is buy more lottery tickets and curse less. None of which have ever happened. I'm
Oh,
also adding in, I'm trying to just buy less this year because I was reading, God, I like, you see some of the, sometimes you see a quote and it just fucks you up,
yes.
even though it makes sense, right? So like somebody I was like on, I think the anti-consumption Reddit thread. I'm back on Reddit. Um,
I didn't know you were off.
after the election, I was off for like a
Right, right,
solid
right,
50 days.
right.
It was too
Now
much for me.
she's back on the juice. Everything's the juice.
I'm off the melatonin. I'm back on the red. But I read this thing on like an anti-consumption thread, and it was like every item you've ever bought is still on this earth. Isn't that horrible?
Yeah, it makes my heart drop into my stomach.
Every item you have ever bought is still here. Think about how many little stupid things you've bought in your lifetime. Remember when I bought you those slippers that when you
Yes.
stomped your feet, their mouth opens up?
Yes, I do. And Tater used to hiss at them
Yes.
because it looked like an
They're in a
animal.
dump somewhere.
How do you know I don't still have them?
Do you? Was a
No.
decade ago.
Can you imagine? I remember that spider catcher you got
Where
me.
is that? In a dump somewhere.
How do you know I don't still have it? Can you imagine if I was just keeping every tiny little. Actually, you know what I do still have? The best gift you've ever gotten me.
Friday Night Lights t-shirt.
Exactly, my Riggin shirt.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, don't ever get rid of that. But I
Yeah, no,
mean,
I
even
won't.
whether you have them, whether they're dump, whatever it is, every item you've ever bought is still on this earth. And I read that, and there was something about it that I was like, holy fucking shit,
Mm,
that's horrible. And so, okay, so right, so we're talking about this idea of setting boundaries myself. So I'm like, I set this boundary of like, I'm not buying things to buy them anymore. So Jen sent me a link this morning, and I was like, I'm gonna buy this. And then like 2 seconds later, I was like, no, I'm not actually. I'm not gonna buy that. And right, so what I said to myself is this is something I want to do, not because um it'll make me a better person, not
mm,
for ego, but because I don't like the feeling of when I buy something dumb. It doesn't
listen,
feel good, right? So it's a dopamine quickly. But long term, I don't feel good when I'm throwing something in the trash. You know what I mean? Like, so the idea of like setting boundaries with myself and sticking to them is what is the benefits that can come to this
mm,
long term. So when
mm,
I think about really setting boundaries, I don't think about the short term because the short term is distress. Same thing with other people, right? Setting boundaries with someone short term sucks. Saying no to someone sucks. Long term feels really good.
mm.
So when I really think about a process for setting boundaries, I list out in my head the potential of long term benefit and why that matters.
And you know what's interesting about that? We live right now in a society where it's like we want the quick hit dopamine,
Yeah, baby.
right? Fix like everything that we do is about quick hit. Like, give me the dopamine, give me the, right? And I think that's kind of in the same way the way consumption is. We just want the immediate effect.
Of course.
And without being conscious of the long-term effects, as you're saying, or anticipating what the long-term effects are,
Mm-hmm.
then it is difficult to hold yourself accountable to
Yeah,
things.
absolutely.
However, I do think the face masks I sent you this morning, great purchase.
And like,
Link in
hey,
our bio.
maybe they're like
Just
bio,
kidding. Just kidding.
maybe they're biodegradable. I don't know. But like, I was just like, you know what I mean? Like, here's the other thing. I have like 15 face masks in my drawer right now of like different birthdays. Somebody gave it to me. My last birthday, you gave me a whole basket of face masks, Jen. I have used one so far.
Okay. I think you sent me a Snapchat with you wearing them.
It was this past weekend. Did you see how many bubbles were in that bubble bath I made?
Yeah, unbelievable.
Thank
Honestly
you.
impressive.
Yeah, I really figured out the bubbles.
They were high.
Um, but I'm like, why don't I go through the things I have first? And so that's just something that feels important to me this year. That's where I'm at. Okay, we have to get to your Jen and M though.
Wow, time flies.
Time flies.
Okay, I'm ready.
Mm-hmm.
You want me to read it?
Yeah, you do.
Dear Em and Jen, my partner lost her father almost 2 years ago and is still struggling with grief. I have never lost a parent, so it has been hard for me to truly understand her pain. I do what I can to validate her pain and help her with what she needs, but I don't always succeed. Not being able to bring her some joy is affecting my mental health and is bringing up traumas from my past. When I express my feelings, she is quick to dismiss them and she can focus on her feelings. As she can focus on her feelings. I know that dating someone who is grieving is not easy and requires a lot of work, but I struggle to be able to fill someone's cup if my cup is empty. Wow.
My
Okay.
initial thought,
Yeah.
next week's episode with Terry Cole
Oh, yeah.
about high functioning codependence.
Yes.
That's the episode for you.
Yeah.
This is high functioning codependency, right? Like, so you said, like, um, I do what I can to validate her pain and help her with what she needs, but I don't always succeed. That's not about succeeding.
Yeah.
We do what we can to validate someone's pain and help them. But if someone is still in pain, it doesn't mean we failed because we don't have control over that.
I would also ask, like, what's the expectation and what does it mean? What do you feel it means about you
Mm,
to not be able to get your partner to feel happy in some way or to if you can understand and accept that your partner's going through their own journey and they're going to need to go through their own journey that you really don't have control over. And I
yeah.
think that's the hardest part is understanding that you don't have control over that process, that journey. And what's really, really important here is you figuring out a way to take care of yourself through this process because it sounds like the way in which you're attempting to take care of yourself is to try to get your partner to feel better, right? If I can do this, then I'm going to feel better. And the reason why you're feeling so bad is because it's not working because you really don't have control and there's nothing you can do to
Yeah.
take that pain away. And so what's really important, and this is really universal for partners, for people who have partners who are struggling with something like maybe they have a chronic illness, maybe they have an injury, maybe they're struggling with grief. Um, as the partner who, is maybe a caretaker or kind of walking alongside that person, it is essential for you to find a way to take care of yourself and focus on you.
Yeah.
That is not selfish. That is important so that you can be supportive in a way that doesn't take away the agency of your partner.
I guess this person did ask a specific question, right? So what I'm also thinking is I want to just validate you. If you have a specific question, you can always DM us and let us know. We'll try to answer that. But what I also hear is you are someone who is struggling in the difficulty, the ambiguity of loss. And I understand it wasn't your direct loss, but you are still sitting and stuck in the grief as well. You are trying to love someone through grief, which is a very difficult thing to do. And in this moment, I just want to say, it sounds like you're doing a really good job in a really hard situation.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of Shrink Chicks.
We'll see you back here next week for another session.
In the meantime, if you want a question answered or a topic discussed, follow us on Instagram at ShrinkChicks. And if you're looking to get connected with a therapist like us to start or continue your therapeutic journey, visit thetherapygroup.com. Just fill out a contact form on our website, and we will personally match you with one of our amazing therapists. And for all of our therapists and group practice owners out there, we also offer group practice consulting.
And if you're looking to support yourself further and support our show, check out our amazing merch options at shrinkchicks.com/merch and our Know Yourself, Grow Yourself journal on Amazon. Also, if you'd be so kind, we'd love a rating review and for you to share with a friend or an enemy or a mother-in-law, honestly, whoever needs it, so that we can keep reaching more people on our mission to bring mental health topics to your ears every week.
Thanks for being here with us. And don't forget to grow yourself. You got to know yourself.